The scene opens with a young man named Bakery Wan calling out for his mother and screaming in shock, wondering what happened. His father coldly confronts him, ordering him not to make a fuss and to leave immediately. He then gives orders for the matter to be kept strictly confidential and for no news to leak. He announces that the Bakery family will not seek revenge for what happened. He explains that he is making this decision for the good of the family and the greater good, and specifically warns his son against acting alone to seek revenge. Bakery Wan shows extreme shock and pain. He then bursts into tears in his father's face, asking how he can claim to be a man when he refuses to even respond to his wife's murder, let alone seek revenge for her. He calls him inhuman. He declares that he will leave, stating that he no longer has any ties to the Bakery family. As he runs away, he realizes he doesn't have enough strength to take revenge in his current state, so he vows to seek immense power that no one can ignore. He decides to establish a new sect, gather his men, and expand his influence. As he continues on his way, he thinks of everyone who had a hand in his mother's death, and everyone who knew the truth and chose to remain silent. He swears he will have his revenge, even if it takes decades. 12 years later, the scene shifts to a place engulfed in flames, where a man is screaming for help, admitting he was wrong and begging for the Muram Alliance to be informed. This man pleads with a now adult Bakery Wan, offering him anything he wants. Amidst the rubble and corpses, he insists his offer is good, to which Bakery Wan calmly replies that there is one thing he wants right now. The man eagerly asks what he wants. He tells him with a smile that he wants his life. The man panics and says it's an unfunny joke. Bakery Wan continues, saying that if he can't give him his life, he will take it himself. The man becomes furious, accusing him of playing with him and threatening to tear him to pieces. Bakery Wan, who suddenly appears behind him, retorts that his mouth is as foul as his appearance. He strikes him hard, sending him flying, creating a crater in the ground and leaving behind a cloud of dust from the powerful impact. The opponent screams, threatening to throw Bakery Wan's head to the Muram Alliance. He moves quickly and cuts him in half. After the fight, a lady approaches him, addressing him as leader. She tells him that someone asked her to deliver something, which she holds on a tray, to him when he was finished. Bakery Wan, blood-stained and smiling, continues by thanking a lady named Moyong Hyun, appreciating her trouble in waiting for him. Hyun hands him a scroll and asks him to wipe the blood off his face, to which he replies that it wasn't bothersome. The two stand before a burning building, and he contemplates whether this is the end, or perhaps just the beginning. He then throws the scroll to her, ordering her to deliver it to the Muram Alliance, announcing that he has decided to retire. As they walk away from the burning place, Hyun asks if he will return to his hometown, and he confirms that he has achieved all his goals in the Alliance. She asks if she can visit him when she retires too, and he agrees, telling her to come find him if she gets extremely bored. She insists on knowing where she should go to find him, and he tells her he will be in Hwayong County, Hubei. The scene shifts to Bakery Wan on a boat, thinking that a long time has passed. He remembers how he left his family and joined the Muram Alliance to build his strength, how he rose to the position of leader thanks to the new martial arts he created, and recalls the 12 years that have passed since he joined. He smiles, feeling he is finally ready to establish his own sect. He continues his thoughts on the boat, noting that he has saved enough money to buy a mansion and has just heard that a perfect property is for sale. Feeling that everything is going perfectly, he laughs to himself, believing that heaven is helping him. Then he bursts into a loud laugh. The old boatman comments that something good must have happened to him, and Bakery Wan apologizes for his excessive excitement. He explains that he is on his way to sign a contract to buy a mansion to establish the sect he has planned his whole life, and the boatman notes that he is a young sect leader. He mutters to himself that the only mansion for sale nearby is the haunted one, and Bakery Wan asks him what he's mumbling about. The boatman dismisses it, wishing him luck in establishing his sect. Bakery Wan thanks him, thinking confidently that all that's left is the contract. Wondering what could possibly go wrong, he continues to laugh. However, upon arrival, he is met with a massive shock. He stands before a completely dilapidated building and asks the man with him, named Yerang, if this is the place, to which Yerang enthusiastically replies, pointing out how spacious it is. He grabs him angrily, accusing him of trying to scam him. Yerang defends himself, insisting that getting this place was difficult, and asks him to look around first before deciding. As they tour the inside, Bakery Wan notices that the place is not just filthy, but it seems like it hasn't been managed at all. Yerang continues to explain, pointing out that the property has 45 rooms and 5 training grounds, 1 large and 4 small. He is surprised by the 5 training grounds and asks which sect was here, but Yerang claims he doesn't know, that the mansion is very old and he is just a broker selling it. He is somewhat convinced, thinking that with a little work, the place would be suitable for opening a sect, but Yerang hesitates. He sighs and asks directly what the real problem with the place is. Yerang admits it's nothing major, except that everyone who previously bought the mansion has died, which shocks Baekri Won. He confirms that they all died of heart failure without any external injuries. Yurong continues his explanation, revealing that all previous buyers died on the first night immediately after purchasing the mansion, which is why the place is rumored to be haunted. He adds that they tried hiring guards and Taoist masters, but to no avail. Baekri Won becomes furious, wondering if Yurong is deliberately trying to trap him in this place. The terrified Yurong immediately offers a huge discount, suggesting selling it for 1/10 of its market value, then backtracks and accepts just 4 silver ingots. His mood changes suddenly, and he laughs out loud, puts his arm around Yurong's shoulder, and hands him the bag of money, saying he should have mentioned the low price from the beginning so he wouldn't have misunderstood him. Yurong is relieved and praises him, noting that such a courageous act is expected from him, the former leader of the Great Blue Sky Unit, known as the Ghost Hunters. He then hands him the deed to the mansion. Baekri Won takes the deed. As Yurong is about to leave, he seems to notice something strange, but when asked, he claims it's nothing. Yurong declares that his role is over, and jokingly tells him that if he miraculously manages to survive one night, he should come and find him. Baekri Won assures him he will. After Yurong leaves, he stands alone in the dilapidated courtyard and sighs. Suddenly, he breaks the silence with a loud shout of joy, expressing his overwhelming happiness that he finally owns his own mansion. He runs inside excitedly, laughing, and says that all that's left now is to find disciples for his new sect. He stops suddenly and looks around at the mess and accumulated dust, realizing he should probably clean the place first. He immediately starts working, actively wiping the floors and corridors. He continues cleaning, thinking he'll be done once he cleans the main hall. He stands at the entrance of the main hall, determined to hurry up and finish this last part. Upon entering the hall, he notices something on a stand in the middle of the room. He approaches it, wondering if the previous owner forgot it behind. He picks up the sword, noting that it looks valuable and might fetch a good price, considering it an unexpected prize. As soon as he holds it, he feels a sudden dizziness and loses his sense of place, wondering where he is. A mysterious glowing system interface appears before him, identifying him as an examinee, a martial artist, and that his goal is to establish a sect with an overall rating, rank 2. The system notes that this is the highest rank among all previous examinees. Baekri Won looks on in shock, wondering what he is seeing. He appears extremely confused as he dodges a swift attack aimed at his head. The system suddenly announces that it is adjusting the test's difficulty level. Baekri Won immediately remembers Yurong's story about the previous owners dying on their first night and realizes that this test is what happened to them. A strange device appears from the ceiling, and the system announces, "Test commencing. Difficulty level, extreme." He finds himself in a glowing test environment, gets ready to fight, and decides to accept the challenge and face whatever comes his way. The system announces that the test area is the Hall of Strength. He powerfully blocks an attack and shouts defiantly, "Bring it on!" declaring that he will prove to everyone that he is not just an ordinary person, but the former leader of the Murim Alliance's Great Blue Sky Unit. He takes a fighting stance and urges the test to come, and the system responds by announcing the initialization of the Sect system. Suddenly, everything disappears, and he returns to the main hall, bewildered and wondering what happened. He stumbles back and shouts for Yurong. The next morning, Yurong appears sitting in his office, and when Baekri Won sees him, he greets him calmly and coolly asks if anything strange happened to him during the night. He storms into Yurong's office and grabs him by the clothes in a state of intense anger, screaming in his face why he didn't tell him something like this, the system, would appear. He continues to scream, pointing to the blue system window, which only he can see, saying this thing has been following him since last night, and asking what it is. Yurong looks at him strangely, confirming that he sees nothing, and asks if he hit his head the previous night. He lets him go, grumbling, and Yurong takes the opportunity to smile, slyly offering to take the mansion back if he's worried. One refuses the offer, insisting he still needs the mansion and that he must now prepare for the sect's opening ceremony, which requires a lot of preparation. He starts listing his needs, explaining that he first needs uniforms, about 20 sets, and asks Yurong if he has any recommendations for fabric stores. He replies that he can recommend some nearby stores, but warns him that making deals won't be easy right now. He explains that everyone is busy trying to win the favor of the Hwangryong Trading Company, a name one recognizes. Yurong confirms it's the famous company that has been supplying the royal family with fabrics for generations. Yurong continues to describe the immense influence of the Hwangryong Trading Company, even within the Murim world, where it deals with both righteous and evil sects, to the point that even the great clans deal with it cautiously. He then sips his tea and tells Won mockingly that given his budget, he shouldn't even think about Hwangryong fabrics because they are completely out of his league. Won admits his words are true, but they still hurt. Yurong adds that they might hesitate to deal with the owner of a famously haunted mansion anyway, and advises him to go look in the regular fabric street. Meanwhile, the system window appears, complaining about being called a pet ghost animal, and Won orders it to stay quiet. He suddenly stops, realizing something. He only signed the contract for the mansion yesterday, so how did the rumor of the haunted mansion spread so quickly? Yurong coldly replies with the proverb, "Words travel faster than feet." Won narrows his eyes, and with a dark expression, he realizes that Yurong himself spread the rumor. Yurong doesn't try to deny it. Won sighs and decides that, in any case, it's free promotion for his new sect. Yurong trembles with fear and tries to justify it by saying that Won's survival is proof that the place isn't dangerous and that everything is fine. Won confronts him and screams at him, accusing him of bringing the haunted mansion and causing his problems. In the fabric street, a vendor calmly replies, telling him he won't sell to him. The merchant locks the shop door in his face, repeating that he can't sell him anything, as Won pleads with him to at least listen. The merchant throws something in his face and orders him to get away, calling him a cursed ghost man. As he walks away, he hears people whispering about him, wondering again how fast rumors spread, and tries to calm himself down so people don't think the Heavenly Healer, his nickname, has gone crazy. Suddenly, he hears someone shouting for another to let him go. He turns to see a man holding a young boy, Seo Wu, who is clinging to him, the boy screaming that the man promised to heal his sister. An old man, elder, runs towards them, calling out to the boy, "Seo Wu." The boy explains to the elder that these warriors tricked him, took his money, and didn't treat his sister. The man gets angry and punches Seo Wu hard in the face, shouting that his sister is hopeless and that even the doctors have given up on her, while the elder screams the beaten boy's name. The old man intervenes, noticing the men's attire, and recognizes them as members of the Baekyeom sect, asking how they can bully a child like that. The highest-ranking member of the group orders his subordinate to handle the matter quietly and ensure the news doesn't reach the sect leader. The subordinate, a huge man, smiles, cracks his knuckles, and tells the elder and the boy they should have been polite, but now they've forced him to get his hands bloody again. The huge man smiles mockingly. Before he can move, he receives a sudden, powerful kick to the face from Baekri Won. The man falls to the ground unconscious, and the highest-ranking member of the Baekyeom sect is stunned, shouting and demanding to know the identity of the attacker. Won stands calmly, looks towards the elder and the boy, then replies to the man that his name might not be famous yet, but it's polite to answer when asked. He confidently introduces himself, announcing that he is Baekri Won, leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect. The senior member of the Baekyeom sect shouts angrily, questioning how an unknown sect dares to interfere in the affairs of the Baekyeom sect. The senior man rushes to attack. Baekri Won counters with a swift and powerful attack, aiming for his hand. He stands over his fallen opponents, coolly commenting that judging people based on their sect's name is not a good habit. He adds that it's especially bad to do so when they don't even know their opponent's skill. Another man gets angry and launches an attack, shouting threats and asking if one dares to oppose the Baekyeom sect, and asks if he even realizes what that means. Baekri Won skillfully dodges the attack and delivers a counterpunch to his face, simply replying that he has no idea. After knocking him down, the squad leader seems to realize something, muttering and wondering if the former Great Master of the Murim Alliance's Blue Sky is the one who bought the haunted mansion. One puts his hand on his face in annoyance as the stunned man asks if he is the one. He grumbles to himself, wondering how far this stupid rumor has spread. He complains that because of this rumor, he couldn't even get a uniform, describing it as annoying. He then turns to the Baekyeom member, demanding he stop chattering behind his back and face him in a fight instead. The man considers this a public challenge to the Baekyeom sect, jumps into the air to attack him, and vows that he will regret his arrogance. A fierce fight breaks out between the two, the ground shattering from the force of their clash. Baekri Won dodges his opponent's swift attacks. Another person tries to sneak up on him from behind. One blocks their strikes before delivering finishing blows. The members of the Baekyeom sect fall to the ground, defeated. As the man lies on the ground in shock, one tells him that if he wanted a challenge, he got one. He grabs the large sword he found in the mansion, his eyes gleaming, and invites the man to come and find him at the Heavenly Bliss sect any time if he wants a fight. He suggests he leave quietly, unless he wants to see something worse. The members of the Baekyeom sect flee, vowing revenge. Baekri Won turns to the elder and the boy, Seo Wu, and asks if they are okay, and the boy calls him Warrior. Seo Wu gets up excitedly, reminding Baekri Won that he's looking for a uniform and announces that his sister is very skilled at making clothes. He suddenly bows deeply before him, begging him to save his sister. Baekri Won is embarrassed and tells him he needs a doctor for that, while the blue system window appears next to him. The window announces the discovery of a new business opportunity, and that the target's rating is rank 3, while the boy smiles hopefully. His expression changes immediately, and he smiles, thinking that rank 3 looks promising, and asks the boy to tell him more about it. Seo Wu begins to explain as they walk, stating that their parents died last year, leaving only him and his sister. He continues that his sister is skilled at handicrafts, so they were able to manage. But she recently fell ill with a disease that freezes her limbs. Baekri Won thinks about this strange illness. He asks the elder about his relationship with them. The elder explains that he runs a small fabric shop in the next village and that he used to give the boy's sister some work, but he got worried when he lost contact with her. Seo Woo leads Baekri Won and the elder to his home, announcing their arrival. They enter a dilapidated hut, which makes Won secretly hope the place doesn't collapse on them. Seo Woo rushes inside calling for his sister, excitedly telling her he brought a ghost-slaying warrior to save her. Won tries to correct this exaggerated description, but he stops suddenly when he sees the shocking sight of hands reaching towards a blazing fire without being harmed. A girl appears, sitting calmly in front of the fire and asks the newcomers who they are. He notices with astonishment that the girl, Sohwa, is placing her limbs directly in the fire without being harmed, and realizes her condition is much worse than he had imagined. The system informs him that the fire and cold energy in her limbs are balancing each other out. One speculates that this might be a side effect of having an internal energy based on yin. He steps forward, introduces himself, and tells her he is here at her brother's request to save her. He asks her if the fire doesn't hurt, and Sohwa confirms it doesn't, explaining that if she doesn't do this, her limbs will get severe frostbite. The elder expresses his concern and asks her why she cut off contact with them, and she apologizes, pointing out that her body has gotten into this strange state. Baekri Won asks for permission to check her pulse for a moment to confirm his suspicions. She agrees and asks him to hurry. While checking, the system warns him that he is absorbing excess yin energy and that this situation is dangerous. He orders it to be silent, which puzzles Sohwa, who sees nothing. The system confirms that excess yin energy has invaded her body. He announces that he understands, and diagnoses her condition as extreme yin constitution, a rare condition that causes her body to continuously gather yin energy from the surroundings and store it. He mentions that the Sword Queen, the mistress of the Sword Pavilion and one of the 10 Celestials, possesses this same trait. Sohwa comments that she doesn't know her, but she sounds like an amazing person. One explains that this constitution is a blessing for martial artists, but in her case, she has absorbed too much yin and severely lacks yang energy to balance it. He then delivers the shocking news. If this continues, she will die within 3 months, something she probably felt herself. She sadly confirms she expected it and asks if there is any cure, while Seo Woo explodes in anger, accusing him of being a fraud like the others. One assures the elder that just providing nourishment won't be enough and will only make things worse, as he thinks that the key is to find a stable way to restore yang energy. The system offers him a solution: complete the essence quest to obtain essence that can be used to increase the recovery rate of sect members. The window explains that minor healing, which costs 50 essence, increases the recovery of health and internal energy. Then a new challenge quest appears: secure the first disciple, with a reward of 50 essence. One realizes the opportunity before him, where he can cure Sohwa and gain a disciple at the same time, hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. He turns to them excitedly and announces that he may have found a way. He then speaks directly to Sohwa and offers her to become his disciple in the Heavenly Bliss sect. Sohwa shows her shock at the sudden offer and asks him what he means by asking her to become his disciple. He simply asks her to trust him this time. She expresses her hesitation, explaining that she has never learned martial arts before and that the request is sudden. She remembers how martial artists talk about righteousness and honor, but she truly believes they only care about their own interests. She remembers how they pretend to help, but in the end, they are only looking out for themselves, and how her parents died caught in one of their battles. She fears this man might be like them, pretending to help her and then abandoning her, and she wonders why he wants her to become one of the martial artists she despises. She suddenly notices Baekri Won's hand, which has been frostbitten from touching her yin energy when he checked her pulse. He extends his hand towards her, smiling, and tells her it's not a problem for him, as long as this is the way to heal her. She is stunned by his reaction and wonders to herself if this man is different from the others. She sighs, deciding she has no other choice, and that if this is the way to heal her body, she will trust him one last time and agrees to his request. The moment Sohwa agrees, the system, which only one can see, announces the completion of the challenge quest, secure the first disciple, and that he has gained 50 essence. It also detects the frostbite on his hand. Immediately, he uses the essence to activate minor healing. Sohwa is enveloped in a halo of light and feels surprised and warm spreading through her hands. One smiles, realizing the system is working, while the system announces the adaptation of healing and concentration of energy. Her internal energy flow increases. He also feels the healing effect, noticing that his own yang energy, which was damaged by the cold, is starting to return. The system confirms that the sect members, Wan's, yang energy is recovering. Sohwa looks at her limbs in disbelief, announcing that her hands and feet are completely healed. Seo Woo rushes to hug his sister, while the old elder asks Baekri Wan in amazement if he used internal energy healing, to which he gives a vague answer that it was something like that. Suddenly, the elder lets out a loud laugh. He speaks, expressing his great admiration, and says that what he saw was a magnificent scene, and that Wan is exactly the kind of man he likes, adding that he now understands why the leader of the Murim Alliance values him so much. Wan is surprised, wondering how this elder knows the alliance leader. The elder realizes he forgot to introduce himself properly, and reveals his true identity. He is Cheon Gamyong, the master of the Hwangryong Trading Company, also known as Master Hwangryong. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of the Baekyeom Sect, White Sword Sect, the leader is reprimanding his men who were defeated by Wan, asking them how they allowed a newly formed sect to humiliate them in such a way. The scene shows the man, highest rank, being brutally punished and screaming in pain. The leader coldly asks him if he is in pain and tells him that this pain is nothing compared to the ridicule he himself will face from the world. He then orders his men to drag them all to the punishment room, ignoring their desperate pleas. At the White Sword Sect's headquarters, the defeated subordinate begs his leader, Seo Yu Hwan, to give him another chance. The leader ignores the plea, thinking about Baekri Wan of the Heavenly Sword Sect. He decides he must prepare a grand welcoming party for him. Back at the hut, Baekri Wan wonders about the true identity of the old man he met. He asks him directly if he is really the head of the Yellow Dragon Chamber Hwangryong. The old man, Cheon Gamyong, laughs, confirming his identity. One thinks that he knew the man was not ordinary, but he never imagined he was this influential. So-hwa tries to apologize to Gamyong for not realizing his status, but he gently reassures her that it's nothing to apologize for. He then turns his attention to Baekri Wan and offers him to join the Yellow Dragon Chamber. He promises to provide all the support he needs. One realizes the magnitude of the offer. The Yellow Dragon Chamber is a massive merchant guild that supplies the royal family with clothing and silk. The system rates him as a potential grade A business partner. He knows that top martial arts masters belong to them, to the extent that a single word from Gamyong could affect the balance between the Murim Alliance and the Demonic Union. Although it's a great opportunity, he decides this is not the future he is seeking. So, he expresses his appreciation for the offer but is forced to decline it. He explains with a smile that he has just accepted his first disciple. Gamyong frowns, wondering how he dares to refuse his offer when he is the head of the Yellow Dragon Chamber. One confirms his refusal but makes a counteroffer, that Gamyong give him a chance to trade with the chamber. In return, he promises that he will give the Yellow Dragon Chamber the fame it deserves. Gamyong is angered by his arrogance, wondering how a nobody can bring him fame. One confidently explains his offer, that within 10 years, he will build a sect that stands shoulder to shoulder with the 9 righteous sects and the 7 demonic gates, asking, wouldn't that be a fair trade? Gamyong describes the claim as absurd, especially from a sect that hasn't even held its founding ceremony. One calmly insists that this is exactly what will happen. Gamyong suddenly bursts out laughing, admitting that Wan has the nerve to make bold claims. One adds that the fame he promised is not for Gamyong personally, which puzzles the latter. He reveals his plan. He wishes to deal with the future of the Yellow Dragon Chamber and asks Gamyong to introduce him to his disciple. After a moment of thought, Gamyong agrees. He tells him he will send his disciple to his sect soon, and that the decision to trade will be up to the disciple himself. But Gamyong warns him that if his sect shows any sign of disappointment, he will pay the corresponding price. One confidently replies that there's no need to worry. Gamyong declares that the matter is settled. Suddenly he shouts, ordering for silk to be brought. The scene shifts outside to show a group of people appearing outside the hut with a cart loaded with goods, and servants greet Gamyong, kneeling on the ground. Cheon Gamyong, Master Hwangryong, presents Baekri Wan with a huge pile of silk, asking him to accept it as a deposit and a gift of appreciation for the entertaining proposal he made. This generosity impresses So-hwa and Seo Woo. Baekri Wan accepts the gift thankfully, thinking about how powerful Gamyong and his men are, admitting that they are true masters. As Gamyong leaves, he thinks about Baekri Wan's arrogance and his audacity to claim he would bring him fame, and he notes that this arrogance reminds him of someone else exactly like him. He calls one of his men and tells him that since they are already out, he would like to visit an old friend, and orders them to head to the Demonic Union. He smiles, saying it's been a long time since he drank with the Union's leader. Back at Baekri Wan's sect headquarters, which is now clean and beautiful, So-hwa asks him what he thinks of the new robe she made herself. He enthusiastically replies that he loves the robe and that it's perfect. He appears wearing a magnificent robe, and the system displays a message stating that it is a heavenly silk robe that has increased his dignity and charm. So-hwa expresses her happiness that he likes the robe and apologizes, saying it's her first time working with such fine silk. One comments on how comfortable he feels moving in the new robe, while Seo Woo watches them with admiration. Suddenly, A system window appears before him, announcing that he has created a garment of exceptional quality and asking him to choose his reward. He sees a reward window offering Advanced Healing Technique, Elixir of Superior Talent, or Unlock Unique Trait. While thinking that the technique and elixir sound great, he decides to choose to unlock a unique trait first. The system announces that he can now unlock his disciple's traits. A window appears displaying Sohwa's information, 17 years old, describing her as being born with an extreme yin body and having exceptional potential as a martial artist, but lacking in stamina due to inactivity. The system displays the available traits: diligence, hardship, and responsibility. However, a warning appears that the disciple's internal energy is insufficient, and unlocking traits is currently unavailable. One angrily wonders why he can't choose any of them. The system explains that the disciple must grow and level up before the traits can be unlocked. One describes this as unfair. He decides he has no choice but to help Sohwa grow so they can unlock these traits. He turns to her and announces that it's time to start proper training. Sohwa feels nervous, wondering if she will be good at martial arts, and fears making mistakes. She remembers what he told her earlier, when he said everything would be fine and that he could fix her and help her change. She gathers her courage, decides to trust him, and eagerly asks him what the first technique she will learn is. He tells her that her first training is the horse stance, also known as the rider's stance. She is visibly disappointed, as she was expecting something more impressive. He explains to her that this is the best basic exercise to build her weak stamina and tells her to focus on strengthening her body for now. She asks him how long she should hold the position. He smiles and tells her the goal is about 1 hour, then yells at her to start. She looks determined but hesitant. She expresses her doubts, saying she has never done anything like this before, and asks if she can really learn martial arts. He reassures her, reminding her that she has an extreme yin body. He explains that her body naturally gathers internal energy, and although it's yin energy, it will stabilize once she forms a core for it. He thinks to himself happily that she is a heavenly talent he can never let go of. Yurong comes running towards him in a state of panic, and hands him a sealed letter, telling him it's from the White Sword Sect. Yurong worriedly asks if Wan knows their leader. He receives the letter, realizing it's about the men he defeated the previous day, while Xiao Wu continues to curse them and call them scoundrels. Upon reading the letter, he discovers it is an invitation addressed to the Heavenly Sword Sect, his new sect, to participate in a martial arts tournament. Yurong explains that the White Sword Sect is the dominant force in the region, and their leader is famous for his bad temper and his reputation for dismantling weak sects under the guise of friendly duels. He finds it strange that a leader of this stature would target a dishonorable sect like theirs. One is annoyed by this insult and asks if he means to insult his sect, and Yurong quickly backtracks, insisting it was a misunderstanding. Bakery Wan smiles, understanding that the leader's goal is to humiliate a rising sect, and finds this amusing. He declares that this is a perfect opportunity to spread his sect's name. His disciple Sohwa expresses her concern, pointing out that there are only 2 of them and that she might hold him back. He surprises her by telling her that she is the one who will participate in the tournament, and by herself. After she processes the words, she screams in terror that she will be fighting alone. Later that night, Sohwa lies exhausted on the floor, complaining that her stamina has decreased and wondering why she is being forced to practice the horse stance excessively. She hasn't practiced with a sword all day and has only learned the basic cutting motions that children do. Her anxiety grows because the tournament is less than 2 weeks away. She seriously wonders what her sect leader is thinking. She remembers how he reassured her with a smile and told her not to worry, so she decides to get up immediately to go and ask him. She finds him awake in his room, sewing a garment and muttering to himself that it's harder than he thought. She notices he's talking to himself again. At the same moment, the system alerts him that the bleeding from the 23rd wound he inflicted on himself has started, and he angrily tells it to be quiet. She stands outside the door and watches him. One thinks to himself that he expects Sohwa to start doubting the horse stance training soon, and that he must hurry and finish her training robes before she comes to him. He holds up the completed robe, hoping she will like it. She is moved by what he is doing for her and silently returns to her room. Suddenly, the system announces that Sohwa's responsibility trait is about to blossom. One is surprised by the sudden notification. The day of the tournament hosted by the White Sword Sect arrives. At the registration table, some officials are grumbling, wondering why the friendly match suddenly became a tournament, and one points out that the rumor of their men being defeated by the Heavenly Bliss sect has already spread. They realize the leader plans to use the tournament to make an example of them in front of the other sects and to show the consequences of challenging the White Sword sect. One of the officials smiles mockingly, saying that these strangers picked the wrong fight, then looks up in surprise. He sees Baekri Wan and Sohwa standing before him. She calmly asks him where to sign. The stunned official answers her. As she signs, he looks at her and thinks to himself, wondering if this sect hires its members based on looks, commenting, She's so cute. The official at the registration desk makes a sarcastic comment about her clothes, which angers Wan. Later, at the sect headquarters, Baekri Wan asks his disciple her opinion on the new robe, and although he admits his sewing isn't perfect, she expresses her immense happiness with it. In the tournament arena, the leader of the White Sword Sect, Seo Yu Huan, announces the start of the White Sword Dueling Tournament, explaining that its purpose is to foster friendship among the righteous sects. He adds that it is also an event for the new buds who will lead the future, which is why he has revealed a small gift. The gift is open to be a lesser clarity pill, which astonishes the attendees. The system explains that it is a rare elixir refined by Wudang's Jianhu people, and taking it strengthens qi and blood and helps establish the energy center. Seo Yu Huan then announces that the winner of the tournament will receive this pill, which excites the crowd who praise his generosity. As an assistant informs the leader that the draw is ready, the latter smiles slyly, thinking to himself and calling the participants fools, and insisting that he will make them never dare to challenge his sect again. He vows to show them the vast difference in power. The events move to Tournament Area 3, Preliminary Round, where Sohua stands nervously, wondering if she can perform well. Baekri Wan reassures her, asking her to remember her training, to which she worriedly replies that all she did was the horse stance. He tells her to trust him because he is the one who trained her. He assures her that she has become much stronger than she was. She decides to try, although she is not entirely convinced. The preliminary round in Area 3 begins. She introduces herself as Sohua of the Heavenly Bliss Sect, and her opponent introduces himself as Cheong Sam, a third-generation disciple of the Blue Moon Sect. He scoffs at her, noting that she not only lacks experience but also looks like she's never held a sword before. She nervously admits that she has only been training for a month. The opponent becomes more sarcastic and vows to teach her a lesson, and gives the referee the signal to start. He stands his ground boldly, telling her to attack with all her might. But in a single moment, she approaches him and delivers a knockout blow, sending him to the ground, amidst the astonishment of the audience, and the referees who couldn't believe the match was decided with a single strike. Baekri Wan smiles, reminding her that he asked her to trust him. The stunned referee announces the victory of Sohua of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. Baekri Wan thinks about his strategy, explaining to himself that over the past 2 weeks he taught her the mindset of a martial artist. He explains that hitting an opponent with full force is difficult for beginners who are afraid of hurting their opponents. He concludes his thought that Sohua, unlike them, can use her full power. She runs excitedly towards her leader, announcing that she won. He watches her, thinking to himself that she should get through the main rounds without any problem. He decides he no longer needs to worry about her and that he should now wander around to see if there are any other interesting participants. The referee announces the next match for Jin Guang of the White Sword Sect, which catches his attention. He watches as Jin Guang quickly defeats his opponent, who begs him to wait. The defeated opponent admits his loss. But, ignoring the surrender, Jin Guang raises his sword with a fierce red aura. He delivers a brutal blow to his downed opponent, who screams for him to stop. The referee intervenes, shouting that the match is already over. Jin Guang is declared the winner. One watches the scene with disgust, noting that Jin Guang is a despicable person who resorts to dirty tricks even against an opponent he clearly outmatches. Sohua runs happily towards him, telling him she has reached the main rounds. She tells him excitedly that she used all her strength and won easily, just as he told her. Suddenly, she feels a strong and uncomfortable killing intent and realizes it's coming from the person one is looking at, Jin Guang. He tells her that if things continue this way, she will likely face him in the main rounds. Someone interrupts them, congratulating them on their progress, and reveals his identity as Seo Yu Huan, the leader of the White Sword Sect, which shocks Sohua. He offers a fake apology for the rudeness of his disciples the previous day. One coldly replies that it doesn't bother him, but adds sarcastically that it seems the leader's disciples need more training. The leader ignores the insult and praises Sohua, considering a young girl reaching the main rounds to be wonderful. But he adds that it's a pity her next opponent is Ogium and that this is as far as she will go. He then offers her to join his sect, pointing out her special talent. One replies mockingly, thanking the leader for his kind words about his paintings, meaning his disciple. He adds that the disciples of the White Sword Sect seem somewhat useful. The word somewhat angers the leader, who immediately calls one of his disciples, Wang Bao. He orders him to escort Wan and Sohua to their rooms and wishes them to enjoy the rest of the event. One replies that they will enjoy it if they can. As they walk, Wang Bao introduces himself as the first sword disciple of the White Sword Sect. The system notes that he, 21 years old, has an exceptional muscular build and a talent for quickly understanding and mastering new movements. He guides them towards the place where they will be staying. Suddenly, one starts feeling Wang Bao's shoulder and arm muscles. He smiles and praises him for his great height and build, which causes Wang Bao's face to turn red as he thanks him awkwardly. He quickly opens the guest room door and asks them to rest. then leaves. Sohua thanks him, then turns to Wan to ask his opinion on her next opponent, but he asks her for her opinion instead. He continues talking to her, telling her with a smile that he considers that fellow, Wang Bal, to be like a younger brother to her, which greatly shocks her with this sudden statement. The scene flashes back to the past, where the leader of the White Sword Sect, Seo Yuhuan, is interrogating a young man, asking for his name, and the young man confirms his name is Wang Bal. The leader is impressed by his strong physique and excellent muscles for his age, and tells him he has talent and will become a disciple of the White Sword Sect. Wang Bal thanks him with great enthusiasm. Later, during a training duel, he is easily defeated by another disciple named Jin Guang. A spectator comments on how amazing it is that Jin Guang defeated a disciple 3 years his senior. Wang Bal, lying on the ground, tries to explain to Jin Guang that it was just training and there was no need for such harshness. The leader turns his face away, declaring he was mistaken about Wang Bal. The young man looks on in shock, while the leader declares he was nothing but an empty shell with a good build. He coldly orders him to spend the rest of his life cleaning up after his younger colleagues. The flashback ends, and Wang Bal wakes up startled from this nightmare. He is surprised to find Jin Guang in his room, who tells him he's awake. He explains he came to warm up before the tournament. Wang Bal tries to apologize, claiming he's not feeling well. Jin Guang scoffs at his excuse and insists he needs him now. He adds mockingly that as a man whose only asset is his physique, he should at least make himself useful at times like these. Wang Bal reluctantly agrees. He tells him to hurry up, he's just doing a light warm-up, and leaves, leaving Wang Bal in a state of despair. Back at the tournament arena, the referee announces the start of the semi-final match. Baekri Wan is remembered explaining to Sohua that her next opponent is Ojium, and his style is the Phantom Sword. He explains to her that this style is full of variations and is hard to predict, but it leaves huge openings if not executed precisely. When she asks him what she should do, she suggests she should try not to be deceived. He tells her she's not wrong, but for her, there is a much easier way, and asks her to do that, something specific that was not revealed, and guarantees her victory if she trusts him. She eagerly agrees. In the present, Yurong joins Baekri Wan, expressing his astonishment at Sohua reaching the semi-finals. He congratulates him on this achievement in just 1 month. Wan smiles confidently and tells him he will accept the congratulations after she wins the finals tomorrow, which shocks Yurong, who asks if he's serious. In the ring, Ojiam addresses Sohua, saying he gives her credit for getting this far, but her luck ends here. He tells her with an arrogant smile that everyone here expects her defeat. She replies with a confident smile, telling him he's wrong, because at least her sect leader said she would win. Ojiam scoffs at her confidence, saying, like master, like disciple, and calls them both out of their minds. The referee announces the start of the duel, and Sohua rushes towards her opponent, declaring she will win today's match. The semi-final match begins between Sohua and her opponent Ojiam, the user of the Phantom Sword. Yirang, the broker, comments that the fundamentals of the White Sword Sect's disciple seem to be on a different level. Ojiam launches a deceptive attack using his technique, mocking her and asking if she will give up so quickly. She remembers her leader's, Baekri Wan's, instructions that if she cannot distinguish between a real and a phantom attack, she should defend her center line. She takes a defensive stance, but Ojiam's attack manages to break through her defense and push her back. He expresses surprise that she managed to block the blow, admits he underestimated her, then prepares to attack seriously using his energy. He unleashes a more complex phantom sword attack, attacking her from multiple angles at once. The scene flashes back to Baekri Wan's instructions to her, where he explained that users of the Phantom Sword are relatively weak in direct combat and try to maintain their distance. He assured her that as long as her weapon can reach him, she can win. In the present, Ojiam mocks her, and she replies that she has only just begun. She ignores the illusions and rushes directly towards him, executing her leader's strategy. He continues his phantom attacks, and scoffs at her very obvious moves as he delivers a real blow. She dodges the strikes but is hit by a powerful counterattack. Baekri Wan watches seriously while Yurang looks shocked. She falls to the ground and Ojiam declares his victory. She kneels on the ground, panting from exhaustion. He coldly tells her he was hoping for more, but it seems this is all she has. She struggles to her feet and screams that it's not over yet. He scoffs at her, wondering what she can do when she can barely stand. Suddenly, he is surprised to see her rushing towards him with determination. He gets nervous and finds this ridiculous. She declares that this one blow will end it. She executes the basic ultimate strike, second form, final cut, delivering a direct and decisive blow to her opponent. Baekri Wan smiles, while Yurang shouts excitedly, declaring her victory. One of the White Sword Sect disciples, who was previously defeated, gets up and protests loudly, claiming she made a mistake and feigned defeat to launch a surprise attack. One calls this claim stubbornness, but the disciple shouts angrily, wondering how their disciple could lose to a girl like her without cheating. Bakery Wan asks in a cold voice if the White Sword Sect always lacks etiquette, allowing a mere disciple to argue with the master of another sect. The terrified disciple backs down, trying to apologize. The leader of the White Sword Sect, Seo Yu Huan, intervenes to offer a formal apology for his disciple's rudeness, which Bakery Wan accepts. However, the leader hints at his displeasure, considering it unfortunate that Wan arbitrarily declared his disciple's defeat, but in the end, he concedes his sect's loss in this match. The result is officially announced as So Hua's victory, and the crowd buzzes with astonishment, wondering how a girl who has been training for only a month could defeat a disciple from the White Sword Sect. She waves excitedly towards Wan, shouting that she won, and he quietly praises her, jokingly mentioning that Yurong will be paying for dinner tonight. From the crowd, Wang Bao watches So Hua on the stage, looking nervous and his heart racing. Later, Seo Yu Huan secretly orders Wang Bao to put poison in So Hua's meal, specifically a paralyzing agent strong enough to slow her movements in tomorrow's match. He adds that mere defeat is not enough and orders him to inform Jin Guang, the violent disciple, to break her limbs and paralyze her. Wang Bao refuses, insisting he cannot do something like that, and receives a hard slap across the face from his leader. He calls him a fool, saying that if he lacks talent, he should at least have cunning. He then slaps him again, justifying that this is why his younger colleagues surpass him. At that moment, Bakery Wan appears, mockingly commenting that the leader of the White Sword Sect is very strict in disciplining his disciples. Both the leader and Wang Bao are surprised by his presence. One smiles and greets them sarcastically. Seo Yu Huan accuses Wan of being impolite for interfering in another sect's affairs. He ignores the accusation and says that regardless of the circumstances, the leader is being too harsh on Wang Bao. The leader replies that it is his duty to guide his disciples and tells Wan to mind his own business, but he replies that he is here on business with him. When he asks about this business, Wan demands that he hand over Wang Bao to the Heavenly Bliss sect. Wang Bao is shocked by this sudden request, pointing to himself in disbelief. Wan explains with a smile that based on what he sees, his sect's methods would suit Wang Bao much better than the White Sword sect's. Seo Yu Huan gets angry, assuming that Wang Bao has gotten close to Wan and that this is why he refused his previous orders, to poison So Hua. Wang Bao frantically tries to deny it. The leader smiles slyly and announces that he accepts Wan's offer, but he adds that it would be a shame to give up a disciple he cherishes so easily and suggests a simple bet. Meanwhile, So Hua feels a sudden chill, wondering where her leader has gone, while the leader thinks that she is too talented to be left to rot in a small sect. He suggests that the winning sect in the tournament takes one disciple from the losing sect, which horrifies Wang Bao. He adds that he is only making this offer because it's a shame to lose Wang Bao, and Wan immediately agrees. Wang Bao tries to convince Wan to back down, considering the joke has gone too far. Seo Yu Huan ignores him, saying he looks forward to the result, and leaves, thinking that Wan's only disciple is about to disappear. After they leave, Wan stops the shocked Wang Bao and asks him why he thinks he chose him. He tells him he doesn't make empty promises and asks him to think carefully about it. Wang Bao asks in a panic if Lady So Hua knows about this bet. Bakery Wan continues talking to him, telling him with a smile that So Hua would be happy to have a junior disciple and that it's a shame to let a talent like him rot in the White Sword sect. He then cheerfully confirms that all he has to do now is win the bet. He turns to So Hua and tells her he doesn't want to put pressure on her, but he asks her directly if she can win this tournament. She replies that she will do her best, of course, but reminds him that he was the one who told her the odds were 50-50. He confirms that, but adds that he knows she can do it. He smiles at her confidently and tells her he believes in her. Her determination strengthens, and she enthusiastically replies that she will win. At that moment, the system appears, announcing that So Hua's responsibility trait has awakened. Elsewhere, the leader of the White Sword sect, Seo Yu Huan, warns his disciple Jin Guang not to be careless. He orders him that he must win and that there will be no more humiliation. Jin Guang agrees with him. Wang Bao approaches him and advises him to be careful. Jin Guang scoffs, insisting he won't be as reckless as Ogeom, and mocks Wang Bao for putting his trust in the lucky shot that the beginner So Hua made. He declares with determination that he will go and crush every bit of that false hope. In the final dueling arena, the referee calls the contestants, So Hua and Jin Guang, to come forward. Jin Guang addresses So Hua, acknowledging her reaching the finals, but tells her that her lucky streak ends here. She calmly replies that they will have to fight to find out. The duel begins, and Jin Guang thinks that as a beginner, So Hua will try to avoid direct confrontation and seize opportunities. But he is surprised when she rushes directly towards him. He is forced to block her powerful strike, letting out a muffled cry of surprise. He is shocked, wondering how her internal energy could be stronger than he thought. She remembers what Wan explained to her, that her opponent would assume her internal energy is minimal, but he reminds her that she possesses an extreme yin body, a constitution that naturally accumulates internal energy. She continues to launch attacks at Jin Guang. She thinks she has one chance. She jumps high into the air, which surprises Jin Guang. He prepares to avoid her attack. He then delivers a powerful blow to her. She falls to the ground hard. So Hua stands up, and Jin Guang admits to her that her energy was stronger than he expected. He gets up and launches an attack, shouting that she is nothing but a beginner. She manages to block his attack, but the force of the impact sends her stumbling backward. She concludes that her opponent is strong compared to those she has faced before. He vows that he will end this in 10 seconds. She struggles, thinking that she can't lose like this. As she continues to fight, the system announces that her responsibility trait has been activated. It explains that the diligence and hardship traits have been confirmed and that based on responsibility, they will merge together. As a result of this merger, a new unique trait known as clear mirror, still water manifests. The system explains that this trait greatly enhances insight and judgment in difficult and critical situations. Thanks to this new ability, she manages to dodge Jin Guang's surprise attack, but she loses her weapon. She feels anxious about this dangerous situation and feels fear from the dangerous aura emanating from him. Jin Guang acknowledges her resilience but threateningly wonders if she can withstand his next blow as he prepares a powerful and dangerous attack. She is shown preparing for the blow. He rushes in for a finishing blow, shouting that it's over. Baekri Wan calls out her name, worried about her. She remembers her leader's words telling her he believes in her. A massive collision occurs. Baekri Wan is extremely worried about the outcome, while Yarang looks shocked. The leader Seo Yu Huan recognizes the technique, wondering if it's the cold yin art. So Hua executes the basic ultimate strike, third form, 1 point, surrounded by an aura of icy energy. After she executes the attack, she feels numbness in her hand. She falls to the ground, and Baekri Wan is shocked. He rushes towards the ring calling out to her, but the referee stops him, reminding him that he is not allowed to go up during the duel. One screams at him, wondering what he's talking about, and points out that the duel is already decided. Jin Guang is shown lying on the ground unconscious. The referee confusedly announces that the winner is So Hua of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. So Hua smiles happily at Baekri Wan. Leader Seo Yu Huan looks on with intense anger, thinking that Baekri Wan has made his sect a laughingstock. On the ring, the exhausted girl is asked if she can stand. She smiles and tells him she kept her promise. One smiles while Yarang enthusiastically applauds, congratulating her on a good fight. He continues to congratulate her, and one asks her to return the gesture to the crowd. The referee stands to announce that the winner of the White Sword Tournament is So Hua of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. Baekri Wan steps forward and announces to the crowd that, as the leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect, he would like to say a few words. He announces that 1 month from now, the official founding ceremony of the Heavenly Sword Sect will be held, and he requests the attendance of everyone present. His announcement causes a great stir among the crowd, as people wonder how the White Sword Sect could lose to a new sect that hasn't even held its official founding ceremony. The leader of the White Sword Sect, Seo Yu Huang, erupts in anger, screaming at Baekri Wan, calling him a bastard, and accusing him of using the tournament as a platform to announce his sect's founding ceremony. He continues his accusations, claiming he hid the fact that his disciple used the cold yin skill and dared to act in front of him. When he steps forward to attack, his disciple Wang Pao stops him, grabbing his arm, which angers him, and he asks what he is doing. He begs him to remain calm. His anger grows, and he accuses Wang Pao of already siding with the Heavenly Sword Sect and prepares to attack him. He declares that traitors must be executed immediately, to Wang Pao's horror. He launches a powerful attack towards him, but Baekri Wan suddenly appears to block the attack, and coldly asks him what he is doing. He declares that Wang Pao is now a disciple of the Heavenly Sword Sect and warns him against treating him recklessly. With glowing eyes, he offers that if he is dissatisfied with the tournament's result, he can fight him personally on Wang Pao's behalf. He squeezes his hand hard. He suppresses his intense anger, pushes him away, and shouts at him to do as he pleases. As he leaves, he screams at Wang Pao, telling him he despises the sight of him and ordering him to get lost. He clenches his fist in rage, vowing never to forget the humiliation Baekri Wan caused him. As they walk, Wan asks Wang Pao if he still has any regrets. He denies it but expresses doubt in his ability to start over as someone who lacks talent. He places a hand on his shoulder, reassuring him that he is already a fine martial artist and promises to prove it to him without a doubt. He is deeply moved, and his eyes well up with tears as he recalls his former master's insults, who called him an empty shell and just a good-looking man. With renewed determination, he thanks him and vows to work hard from now on. The system announces that he has officially become the second disciple of the Heavenly Sword Sect. With the tournament concluded, Yurong complains that Wan stole the spotlight with his announcement, even though Sowa was the one who won. 2 weeks later at the Sect's headquarters, Wang Pal is seen training diligently in the horse stance. He pants from exhaustion and asks his master what he should do besides the horse stance, while Sowa runs by playfully, laughing and calling out to him. She clears her throat, taking on the role of the senior disciple, and tells him that the leader always emphasizes the basics. She, with 2 months of training, advises him not to be impatient and to train hard to one day become like her. He, with 8 years of training, laughs awkwardly and agrees. He smiles and says he's still confident in his physical skills, so she tells him that if that's the case, he can fetch the water himself. Baekri Wan observes his new disciple, and the system displays his profile. Wang Pal, 21 years old, second disciple. It reveals his strengths, an exceptional bone structure and a prodigious talent for understanding and absorbing techniques. And his weaknesses, a very low sense of Chai energy. He gathers internal energy slowly. This can be compensated for with spirit concentration. His unique, currently unusable traits also appear: shy, diligent, self-disciplined. He confirms that this matches his suspicions. He analyzes that his talent lies in his understanding of techniques and his firm mental image, in addition to his endurance. As he watches him play with Seo Wu, he thinks about his new disciples, first Sowa and now Wang Pal, and smiles, satisfied with his keen eye for talent. Yurang asks him how the preparations for the founding ceremony are going. One thanks him, confirming that things have gone smoothly thanks to his help. Yurang humbly says he's just an investor, then tells him that thanks to the promotion during the tournament, many messages have arrived from people confirming their intention to attend the founding ceremony, which surprises him. But he adds a caveat, telling him that among the letters is an order from the Murim Alliance, which shocks him. He opens the scroll, only to discover that the Murim Alliance is demanding they undergo a plagiarism review regarding the Baekri family's core skill, which greatly bewilders him. Yurang shouts, denouncing the timing, wondering why they are suddenly requesting this now, 15 years after the Baekri family published the skill. One thinks with a sarcastic smile that this method of targeting weaknesses is typical of his family, and feels frustrated that things were going so smoothly before this. He asserts, to himself, that his sect's martial arts are the product of 15 years of his own insight, and not a single thread of his family's techniques is woven into them. But he realizes that if the Murim Alliance examiner decides to side with his family, it will be difficult to avoid a plagiarism conviction. Yurang realizes with horror that if they fail the review, they won't be able to transmit the art and will owe a huge compensation, which makes him scream for his money. He adds that even if they get a re-examination later, the standards will be much stricter. Wang Pal interrupts him by entering and calling for the sect leader. Yurang announces that he must leave now and exits, leaving Wan and Wang Pal. One thinks they will most likely target the founding ceremony. He decides they must check the differences in the core skills of as many known sects and houses as possible so they can't find loopholes to accuse them of plagiarism. But he faces a problem in how to obtain these core skills immediately. Meanwhile, his two disciples, Sowa and Wang Pal, call out to him in confusion. Sowa rushes in screaming, "Sect leader!" looking extremely frustrated, and he asks them what's happening. They tell him that guests have arrived, which startles him. At the entrance, a woman named Cheongha wonders if that stingy patriarch really bought this property. Her huge companion, Namgung Wu, warns her not to touch anything recklessly before he kills her. When Wan appears, he asks them their identities. Namgung Wu greets him, calling him by his old title, Great Patriarch of the Blue Sky Unit. The two guests are introduced. Namgung Wu, a member of the Great Blue Sky Unit from the Namgung family, and Cheongha, the unit's leader. He then asks him if he is now the leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect. Baekri Wan starts laughing, which puzzles Sowa, and says that their arrival could turn everything around, and he thinks about his family. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Yurang discusses the situation with his aide, postulating that if this request is backed by the well-connected Baekri family, the Murim Alliance is likely to side with them, and he wonders if they should pull out. But his aide replies that there's no need to hesitate, pointing out that this trial is on a completely different level and not a simple problem like the one with the White Sword Sect. Yurang calls for his aide Gayum and orders him to draft and send a letter. When asked where, he explains that if they fear the influence of the Murim Alliance and his family, perhaps they should raise the stakes. He smiles slyly, declaring he'll see if they can drag the demonic union into this as well. At the Baekri family headquarters, someone speaks to the master of the outer hall, Baekri Seung, saying he is committing a needless act. It becomes clear that he is speaking to the head of the family, Wan's father, questioning the point of requesting a plagiarism review for a core skill of a sect that hasn't even opened yet, and reminds him that he warned him not to provoke him. He acknowledges that the family head did indeed warn him, and replies that the decision to provoke was a unilateral one made by the family head himself. The conversation between them continues. Seung had been evaluating Kang's sons, noting that the eldest son, Wana, Baekri Wan, doesn't care for martial arts, is weak and talentless, while the daughter Sana is talented but impulsive, and most importantly, a girl. Baekri Kang calmly replies that there's no problem with a girl inheriting the family, as there's no rule against it in their family. Seung gets angry, asking him how he let that boy, Won, leave the family, wondering if he didn't cherish him. He reminds him that Won was a child who excelled in talent, intelligence, and even temperament, to the point that no one would have objected to him being the heir. The father calmly agrees with him. Seung insists he must be brought back and shown that his place is here, and he must be reminded that his roots are with their family, stressing that this is the will of the Council of Elders and the Outer Hall. Baekri Kang agrees, considering he has done his duty as a father. He adds that adversity is necessary for growth and that his son must learn to protect his sect. He orders Seung to go and make him understand that wherever he goes, he is under the sky of the Baekri family. He bows, vowing to bring Wana back to the family. The scene shifts to the day of the Heavenly Bliss Sect's opening ceremony. Baekri Seung stands beside Yi-Soo, the deputy military commander of 3 divisions in the Murim Alliance. He reassures him not to worry, asserting that so far, no sect has survived a core skill plagiarism review. Seung replies that he is not worried at all and that he will bring his nephew back unconditionally. As they walk, Yi-Soo expresses his lack of understanding for his obsession with him, wondering if he isn't just a relative despite his talent. Seung replies that he is not just a relative. He explains that if he had stayed and trained in the family's arts, he would have become the greatest swordsman of this era. He concludes that the boy abandoned the family, but it needs him. He looks at the crowd gathered for the opening ceremony, wondering to himself how Baekri Won will respond to his family's call. In the ceremony courtyard, his voice is heard ordering to open the gates. His personal system notes that his heart rate is accelerating and advises him to breathe deeply. He tells it to shut up and jumps from the roof of the building. He lands forcefully in the middle of the courtyard, shouting, "Open the heavens!" The crowd, including Seung and Yi-Soo, is stunned by this sudden entrance. He stands tall, holding his sect's banner, and thanks everyone for attending. Then he formally introduces himself. "I am the leader of the Heavenly Bliss Sect, Baekri Won." He continues, saying he has much to say, but there is a task that must be resolved before they can open the sect. He decides to clarify the matter for those who haven't heard the news yet. Then he shouts at the top of his lungs before the crowd, declaring that his sect, the Heavenly Bliss Sect, has plagiarized the martial arts of the Baekri family. This announcement causes shock and utter chaos in the crowd, with people wondering why he would say this at his own opening ceremony. The guests, including Yurang's allies, wonder if he is admitting to plagiarism with his own mouth. One of the attendees laughs, considering this has become more exciting than he expected. Yi-Soo comments to Baekri Seung that the leader of the Heavenly Bliss Sect has given up, and their task has become easier. But Seung watches him with intense focus, and replies that it seems different to him. He stares at his nephew, wondering to himself what he is thinking. Baekri Won continues his shocking announcement, stating that he knows a review committee sent from the Murim Alliance is present, and he asks them to step forward. Baekri Seung, Pale Moon Sword, and Yi-Soo, deputy military commander of the alliance, step forward. His uncle greets him, saying it has been a while. Yi-Soo asks him his intention, and he replies that it's not difficult. He declares that he intends to undergo the plagiarism verification review here, in this open place in front of everyone. This shocks his uncle, who protests that reviews are confidential and not disclosed to the public until a verdict is issued. Yi-Soo intervenes to stop him, reminding him that the alliance is here to mediate, not to interrogate his sect. Yi-Soo realizes to himself that he cannot appear unjust in front of the other sects, so he decides to take the initiative and agree. Baekri Won asks for permission to begin, and Yi-Soo agrees. He begins to demonstrate one of his sect's 2 core skills, the Transcendent Strike. He performs the first form, Heaven, Earth, and Man. The audience cheers in admiration of his martial skill. Yi-Soo asks if this is the skill that is alleged to have plagiarized the Baekri family's arts. One confirms that the similarity is based on borrowing the principle of heaven, earth, and man. His uncle begins to opine that it is indeed, but he interrupts him, adding that it is also simultaneously considered plagiarism of the Nanggong family's arts. He continues, declaring that all 23 of his sect's core skills, after verification, are considered plagiarism of the arts of numerous sects. The panicked Yi-Soo shouts that this is a false accusation. He calmly asks him which part is false. Yi-Soo replies flusteredly that there are no representatives from the other sects here to verify this claim. Nam Gung-woo, So-gui, raises his hand, saying, "I am here." He steps forward amidst the astonishment of the attendees who recognize him as a member of the Nanggong family. Then Cheongha, So-jan-wol, raises her hand, announcing that she is also here as a representative of the Wudong sect, and the crowd recognizes her as well. Yi-Soo wonders why members of the Great Blue Sky Unit, which one used to lead, are here. Nam Gung-woo explains that they were on a nearby mission and heard about their former captain's opening ceremony. He confirms that the parts Won mentioned are indeed similar, explaining that his family's core skill also embodies the principles of heaven, earth, and man. Cheongha confirms that the Wudang sect has the same opinion and presents a box full of letters. She explains that these letters, in addition to their testimony, are confirmations of plagiarism, suspicions from other sects. She smiles, wondering if the Baekri family's core skill will now be embroiled in plagiarism issues with these other sects. Baekri Seong shouts that this is a false accusation. Nam Gung-woo mocks their logic, questioning if the mere overlap of the heaven, earth, and man principle means plagiarism. Isn't that the same as what the Baekri family is claiming? He realizes the predicament, thinking in horror that the review committee itself is making a false accusation. Yisu shouts in anger, "What did you say?" While Baekri Won presents him with a written response confirming the overlap of skills, signed by the current captain of the Blue Sky Unit, Moyong Hyun. His uncle's anger intensifies as he trembles, and calls him a bastard. Yisu asks him how he managed to verify all these claims with 23 different sects, sarcastically wondering if he wrote down his core technique and distributed it in letters. Baekri Won replies that he has said all he wants to say, and that it is now time for the Pale Moon Sword, his uncle's title, to give his answer. He realizes, in his thoughts, that his uncle is in a bind. The moment he admits to plagiarism, on his part, his own family's core technique will become embroiled in a plagiarism dispute with 23 other sects. He wonders if his uncle will really risk moving forward. Sung, trembling with rage, asks him if this is all he has. He explodes with anger and rushes forward with his sword to attack him. His two disciples, Nam Gung-woo and Cheongha, shout, calling him master. He stops them from approaching. He blocks his uncle's attack and tells them this is personal business. He accuses him of still holding a grudge and continuing to resent the family. He shouts back that his uncle is the one holding the grudge. He continues his accusation, questioning if he is trying to destroy their family because they didn't take revenge for his mother. He adds that he understands if he sees them as a pathetic family for not even being able to protect his mother, but if he's trying to destroy the family because of that, then he, Seung, will. He launches a counterattack that overpowers his uncle. The latter stumbles back from the force of the impact, coughing up blood. He stands over him, asserting that he has no intention of denying his lineage. He admits he would be a liar if he said he didn't resent his uncle, but he has let go of most of that resentment now. He angrily asks him why he doesn't return then. He explains that as a sect leader, he must become stronger on his own, and that he is now different from the person who ran away from the main family. He asks him how long he thinks he will last, warning him that small sects like his are nothing if the main family decides to pressure him. He replies that he is ready for a confrontation at any time, just like this time. He recalls a memory from his childhood, training with his uncle and calling him uncle. He remembers how he proudly shouted that he had finally succeeded in blocking one of his strikes, and his uncle laughs, telling him, his pet name, to get ready for another strike. Back to the present. He addresses his uncle lying on the ground, telling him that as the leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect, his core technique and martial arts are not plagiarized from any other sect. Then he adds, as his nephew from the Baekri family, that he asks him to wait a little longer, vowing that he will reveal everything one day. His uncle gives a faint smile. He gets up and officially announces his identity. Baekri Seong, the outer head of the Baekri family and the younger brother of the current family head, announcing his name as Chang Wol. He declares before the crowd that the Heavenly Bliss sect did not plagiarize the martial arts of the Baekri family. The crowd erupts in cheers and applause. Among the audience, a masked person smiles, thinking that he was prepared to intervene if things went south, but it seems Won didn't need any help, praising the old man, Yurong, for his good choice of person. Meanwhile, Ga Yom, a disciple of the master of the Yellow Dragon Room, appears, scolding the masked man and telling him to be quiet. The aide grumbles about coming all this way, but expresses amazement at the palace, wondering if it's a divine weapon or a wondrous artifact. The masked man, Sado Ryan Ju, master of the demonic union, appears and smiles, commenting that Baekri Won is a more interesting person than he thought. He announces that he will leave first and disappears into the shadows. Ga Yum watches him leave, and thinks that this person was her first business partner. Back at the Heavenly Bliss sect headquarters later, Sowa looks shocked as she thinks about how unbelievable what is happening is. The scene shows that 3 days have passed since the founding ceremony, with Wang Pao sweeping the courtyard and grumbling that not a single person has come to join the sect. Baekri Won tries to maintain his composure, but he grips his writing brush with such fury that it almost breaks, prompting Sowa to warn him. The system detects that his heart rate is fluctuating. He ponders how to get new disciples, concluding that it requires either a very high reputation or building trust by contributing to the local community over a long period. He considers sending Wang Pao to bring in business, but reconsiders and hands Sohwa a document to send to the Hawun Trading Company. When she asks about its contents, he tells her it's a method for recruiting disciples. The document turns out to be a request for cooperation with the Murim Alliance's training institute. The scene shifts to the office of the second deputy commander of the Murim Alliance, where an aide informs his superior that the trainees in the Hall of Strength have submitted a refusal to train. The commander asks for the reason, and the aide explains that the graduation martial arts tournament is imminent, and the trainees feel the training process is unfair. He explains that the Alliance divides trainees between the Hall of Strength, for small sects and independents, and the Hall of Virtue, for large sects and independents, prestigious sects and famous families. The commander, Jagal Byong, comments that the Hall of Strength usually offers a fair fight, but the aide clarifies that this year's batch from the Hall of Virtue is exceptionally strong, and the Hall of Strength has lost the tournament for 3 consecutive years, and their morale is very low. He adds that they are trying to persuade the master of the Hall of Strength, but it seems he is secretly supporting their refusal. Jagal Byong deduces that the master, after being defeated for 3 consecutive years, wants to save face. At that moment, a carrier pigeon arrives, carrying Won's message. After reading the message, the commander, Jagal Hui, orders his aide to gather all the trainees of the Hall of Strength, and declares that the training will proceed as scheduled. In the mountains near Huiyang County, the trainees are seen training hard. One of them suddenly wakes up. It's revealed to be trainee Xian Wu Kang, panting in his bed. He reflects, known as a trainee in the Hall of Strength, wondering how long he will continue to bring shame upon himself. He gets up at night to find his colleague, Seonmun Chuk, writing. He tells him his turn hasn't come yet, and that he should mature a bit. Kang, unable to sleep, asks him if there is anything unusual. He apologizes, explaining that this current training is his fault. He admits that he was the one who encouraged the refusal of training. He believes the Alliance considered it a challenge and sent them as punishment to an unknown sect, Bakery Wan's sect. His colleague replies that it doesn't matter, suggesting that if they don't trust the sect, they can simply pressure its leader, Wan, until he respects their opinion to some extent. He notes that it's time for the guard change and tells him to go to sleep. Suddenly, they jump up in alert, and Chuck shouts, "Who's there?" Bakery Wan appears before them, introducing himself as the leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect. He announces to them that he will now begin the sect's entrance test. He explains that the rule is simple. He tells them that all they have to do is have just one of them succeed in crossing the threshold of his sect, the building's entrance. Upon hearing this, Kang shouts for the rest of the Hall of Strength members to prepare for battle. One rushes to attack him, overpowering him with a single swift blow, leaving Chuck in a state of shock. Chuck screams his name after he falls to the ground. Bakery Wan adds a condition to the test. They must succeed in escaping from him safely. Meanwhile, near Mount Wudang in Hubei province, some people are exchanging news about the Hall of Strength trainees. One explains that their training location for this season is a new sect no one has heard of. A young man comments that he's not interested, considering it pointless, and that the Murim Alliance is just trying to create some sort of balance. The young woman rejects the idea, saying they are all the same and it doesn't matter who the instructors are because she will win in the tournament. A flashback appears. She remembers herself as a child calling out to her brother, asking him where he is going. The scene shows her, the little girl crying and calling out to him as he leaves her, Bakery Wan. Back to the present. She is introduced as Mugyeongguan Bakery-san, Bakery Wan's younger sister, and she vows to herself that she does not intend to lose until she knows why her brother abandoned the family and left. Back at Wan's training ground, Wan attacks the trainees. He observes their fight and comments that their level is not bad. Chuck rushes to help his fallen comrade, asking if he's okay. He confronts him, asking why he is attacking them if he is the sect leader. Wan smiles and replies that this is his teaching style, and that he needs to understand all of them before he can start teaching them. Chuck reminds him of the test rule, one person succeeding, and asks what will happen if they fail. He replies, while attacking, that if they are the type who can't even pass a simple entrance test like this, there will be no need to send them to the martial arts tournament. He explains that he plans to tie up everyone who fails and throw them in the storeroom until all the matches are over, and he declares that this is the greatest humiliation a martial artist can suffer, defeat without even a chance to fight. Chuck shouts and asks him to wait. As the attack continues, Kang suddenly appears before him and blocks his attack. The trainee Seoman Chuck smiles and boldly asks him if defeating him here would be considered passing the entrance test. Bakery Wan accepts the challenge and tells them to attack. They attack together, and he comments that it's a good decision. The scene shows a violent clash, and they scream in pain. He explains that their decision would have been good, if not for the fact that their opponent is him. Kang is shown in a state of shock. He stands before the trainees he has easily defeated and sighs. He mocks them, wondering where their initial spirit went, and how they could get flustered by a simple setback. The trainee Sion Oggang gets up and attacks again, to which Wan comments, "Good." He analyzes his attack, noting that despite his fighting spirit, His movements seem a bit stiff. Yun rushes from behind him and tries to surprise him with a sudden attack. He moves quickly, swiftly aiming his leg towards her, but he stops just before it would decapitate her. He notes that Seomin-chuk is quick to assess the situation and seems to have witnessed real combat. He blocks the attacks, and thinks that they are all extremely tense due to panic. He delivers a powerful counterblow to Chuk, making him scream in pain. He concludes that they are completely failing to take advantage of their numerical superiority. He addresses Seon Oggang, pointing out the hesitation in his movements, and sarcastically asks if he's worried about hurting him. He adds mockingly, how could he hurt him with this pathetic level of skill, but thinks to himself that these three, Kang, Chuk, and Yun, are the most prominent. He decides to provoke them a little. He expresses his deep disappointment in them and how they turned into a disorganized mob just by facing an unexpected opponent. He tells them that the rumors about defeatism controlling them seem to be true, which angers Kang. Seomin-chuk speaks to him. He formulates a plan and tells him to handle the defense. He believes Won is deliberately matching their level and that the three of them, with Danri Yun, can definitely create an opening. He completes the plan that when Kang sees the opening, he will charge, and Danri Yun must finish it. One notices they've finally decided to get serious but comments that they are too slow and rushes to attack them. He attacks, and Seon Oggang is shown in a shocked defensive posture. He delivers a powerful kick towards him, sending him flying. The others take advantage of his distraction, quickly approaching from two different directions, and he stands in the middle while they are in shock. He notices that the trainees are launching a coordinated attack. The two, Chuk and Yun, attack together, but he easily blocks them, sending them flying with a roundhouse kick, and they scream in pain. They are thrown to the ground. Kang shouts in anger, realizing that their biggest mistake in facing a master is familiarity, i.e., assuming the master won't attack seriously. He confirms this, grabbing him, and calls them naively optimistic for believing he wouldn't use his full strength. He throws him to the ground, expressing his disappointment and that he expected a shred of talent from them. He cracks his knuckles. He declares that it's over and that it's unfortunate, but a promise is a promise, referring to imprisoning them. Suddenly, Seon Woo-kang attacks Baekri Won with an aura of red energy, blood sword technique, surprising him. He blocks the attack, noting that this martial art is familiar and unexpected. He recognizes the technique as belonging to the unorthodox faction, and specifically to Daehyul Great Serpent Sword Hyungso, Kang Pants, thinking that he risked his life to pass this training. He orders him to show him his full power. He attacks ferociously. He blocks the powerful strike and feels a numbness in his hands. He looks on in amazement, thinking, this brat, and realizing his incredible talent. He starts to laugh, and his system announces that his excitement meter has risen for the first time in a while. He thinks to himself excitedly, I want this boy. Then he laughs out loud, mocking him by asking if that's all he's got. He wakes up, panting. He finds himself in a bed inside a room, wondering where he is, and if this is the headquarters of the Heavenly Bliss Sect. He realizes he overexerted himself yesterday and collapsed. Someone, named Wan Jin, enters and asks if Master Seon Woogang is awake. He recognizes him. He panics, internally, realizing he used the blood sword technique of the unorthodox faction in front of him, and fears he might have noticed he is from the unorthodox faction. He continues to panic, thinking this is bad, and that he might be executed as a spy before he can have his anticipated duel with the Mugyong Martial School. Wan Jin tells him it's time for assembly and they should go, and he agrees nervously. He wonders to himself why Wan Jin didn't speak about it, and if the sect leader didn't notice. But he remembers his expression was strange when he looked at him. He's sure that he noticed and even recognized his sword energy and mentioned his master's name, Great Catastrophe Sword. He continues walking in confusion, wondering why the sect leader didn't expose him as a spy from the unorthodox faction, even though he was able to. He keeps thinking, trying to understand what he is planning. When they arrive at the training ground, he greets them with a mysterious smile. The scene shows Kang looking at him, in shock, as his fears that he knows his secret are confirmed. He announces to them that they have all passed the first test, noting that 5 out of 15 have succeeded, which is more than he expected. He is shocked, and realizes that only their group is left. The 5 successful trainees are shown: Oh Ryong, Dan Ryan, Wan Jin, Seon Mun-chuk, and the last trainee appears, Seon Woogang Kang. Baekri Won explains the next stage of their training. For the next 15 days, each of them will spar with his sect's disciples once a day, and they must use the rest of their time to study and refine their techniques. Then he orders his disciple Sowa to distribute the tools. She gives it to their colleague, confirming it's the weapon he uses. She carries a set of wooden weapons and asks everyone to take one. Then she introduces herself, telling them she will be their sparring partner during the training, as the sect leader ordered. He confirms this and asks them to introduce themselves and get along. Wang Pao, the second disciple, introduces himself awkwardly. Seon Mun-chuk interrupts him, saying that introductions are a waste of time and suggests they start today's spars first. Sowa enthusiastically agrees, suggesting they fight 5 against 2, the 5 of them against her and Wang Pal, to save time. They are stunned by this proposal. Surprisingly, Wang Pal agrees to the idea. Baekri Wan smiles proudly, commenting to himself that he is proud of Sowa, and he also agrees. Chuck comments sarcastically on their overconfidence. He decides he will handle it himself and asks his 4 colleagues to just watch. He declares the start of the spar, thinking that they may have lost to the Mugyang Martial School for 3 years. But they will not be defeated by an unknown sect. He rushes towards Sowa, declaring he will finish it quickly. But she blocks his spear. He continues his attack, declaring that he is not done yet. He launches a series of rapid strikes, believing the next blow will be the decisive one. Suddenly, her unique trait, Clear Mind, activates, which surprises him when she grabs his spear. She unleashes an aura of cold yin art, causing his spear to freeze as he screams in shock. She warns him with a smile that her strike will hurt a little. She rushes forward with her powerful icy attack. Xian Wu Kang screams his name as he sees the attack. After his defeat, she invites the rest of the trainees to attack her together. The monk Wan Jin rushes forward screaming that his name is Wan Jin, not the rest, but she blocks his attack. He is impressed by her excellent defensive stance and praises her hard training. She thanks him shyly, but he warns her that the next blow will not be easy. He attacks, but Wang Pal suddenly intervenes to block the strike, surprising Sowa. He smiles and declares that his turn has come. The scene shows him attacking Wan Jin, but someone intervenes and restrains his hand with a whip. Ryan acknowledges their strength and declares that from now on, they will all attack with their full power. The 5 of them rush together to attack them, but they manage to block all of their coordinated attacks. Xian Wu Kang shouts in anger, not believing they are struggling against an unknown sect. Sowa notices in shock that Wang Pal is injured in his arm from Kang's attack. The scene shows him screaming, using his physical strength to pull Ryan's whip. He pulls her forcefully with the whip, and her comrades shout in concern for her. He throws her forcefully towards Kang, and the 2 fall defeated. After 4 of them are defeated, Sowa addresses Oh Ryong, who is left standing alone, and tells her the spar is already decided. She asks her if she still wants to continue. She looks at her defeated colleagues and realizes in shock that there were 5 of them, and they couldn't win. Baekri Wan smiles, declaring that it seems everything is over. Then he tells them, as an additional piece of information, that Sowa has only been learning formal martial arts for 1 month. Sowa smiles and winks at them as they are stunned. Kang wonders to himself what kind of training makes her so strong at this age. He addresses them, telling them that from now on, they must search for coordinated techniques that 2 or more of them can execute together. He reminds them that when he was at the Muryang Martial School, these tactics were the key to victory. He adds that this lesson should resonate even more, especially for them after they lost to the Mugyang Martial School for 3 consecutive years. He explains that to achieve this, they must trust themselves and their comrades, because this trust will build an unshakable confidence and increase their individual strength. He ends today's training and tells them to rest, and they thank him in unison. After the training ends, he asks trainee Xian Wugang to stay behind. The latter seems nervous about this summons. As the other trainees leave, exchanging praises for their skills, he activates a sound barrier, via his personal system, to ensure no one hears their conversation. He smiles at him, noting that he has become quick-witted, because he realized the reason for his summons, while Wugang looks confused. He tells him they will continue their conversation from yesterday. He confronts him, surrounded by a blue aura, directly revealing his knowledge of his true identity. He asks him why the young leader of the Bloodsword sect and one of the pillars of the unorthodox faction is pretending to be a disciple at the Muryang Martial School. He demands a proper explanation, and warns him of the consequences if he does not provide one. He repeats his question sharply, which terrifies him. The trembling man thinks about escaping. He anticipates this move and stops him with a swift motion. He coldly tells him that the option to escape does not exist for him. He demands an answer for the last time about why he is here. A flashback to events 5 years ago in the Bloodsword sect begins. The scene shows Wugang being reprimanded by his master for breaking the arm of a helpless opponent. He orders him to get up. He shouts at him angrily, wondering why he didn't completely sever the opponent's arm or destroy his tendons to ensure he could never hold a sword again. He reminds him that he is the young leader of the Bloodsword sect, a position that is supposed to be feared by all who follow the unorthodox path, and asks him how long he will continue to disappoint him. Then he issues a shocking order to kill his older sister, the sect's senior disciple. He explains that she is fighting on the front against the Muram Alliance, and orders him to kill her, whether by a stab in the back or by infiltrating as a traitor. When he tries to protest, the master shouts that petty mercy could lead to the annihilation of the entire sect. and that this is the meaning of walking the unorthodox path. He threatens him that if he feels wronged, he will order his older sister to kill him instead. He warns him against escaping or committing suicide, because he, the master, will kill her herself if he does. He tells him that his destiny in the end is to kill him and inherit the sect, and if he refuses, he will kill everyone around him. He declares that the only path before him is for him and his sister to kill each other. He kneels, defeated, declaring that he will obey him. He remembers, in the present, his decision to infiltrate the Murim alliance as a spy and kill his older sister. He thinks as he faces him that he just needs to buy time until he can escape his master's watch. He shouts and lunges forcefully towards him, deciding to use his technique, the blood sword technique, against him. One easily blocks his attack. He smiles at him. He comments that he lacks the ability to assess his opponent's strength, but his decision to break through was a good one. He asks him to show his true strength. He shouts at him, asking, "What do you want to do with me?" He continues his confrontation with him, telling him that he came here to train, and that he cannot show his true strength using the arts of the orthodox path. He urges him to prove his worth, noting that unleashing his true power will make his upcoming duel with the Mugyong martial school much easier. He realizes that this fight is on a completely different level than the entrance test. He feels the danger, thinking that if he lets his guard down for a moment, he will die. He charges with a cry, using the red blood sword technique. One blocks the attack, commenting that this is better than using orthodox techniques half-heartedly. He tells him with a smile that he was never suited for the arts of the unorthodox path because his nature does not align with it. He angrily asks him what he means. He explains that the techniques of the killing sword require a readiness to cut down anything in one's path, and this does not suit him. He shouts, questioning what he knows about him, and remembers his master's words about what it means to walk the unorthodox path. He continues his assessment, pointing out that his sword hesitates and lacks fighting spirit. He shouts at him to stop acting like he knows him. He strikes him, telling him that he is trying to hide his true self, but his sword betrays him. He asks him, while he is kneeling, about the truth he seeks. He shouts angrily, wondering if this matters in a world where everyone either kills or is killed. He responds by asking him why he carries a sword. He hesitates, then shouts, "I carry the sword for..." Then a violent clash of energies occurs. He falls to his knees, exhausted. He answers, "I carry the sword because I have a reason to become stronger." He recalls a memory of his father, Seon Woo-young, who was not a great martial artist, but was a man of honor who fought and stood firm on the battlefield even when everyone else fled, and remained true to himself. He admits that his father's death still fills him with resentment, but he could do nothing at the time. He had realized that if he acted recklessly, he would also die a meaningless death. That's why he decided he needed to become stronger and endure whatever happened. But he admits that in his obsession with strength, he became known as the young leader of the blood sword sect, not Seon Woo-young's son. In the present, he asks him if he regrets those days. The exhausted man replies that he doesn't know. He explains that he only wanted to protect his father's honor and prove that he was not a coward but a martial artist braver than anyone else. He shouts that he wanted to carry his name and lineage as his son. He prostrates himself before him, confessing that he has now lost his way. After his confession, he asks him to kill him or report him to the Murim alliance, and to do as he pleases. He insists that the other trainees have nothing to do with this, and that he infiltrated alone. He sits before him and replies that he understands. Then he places his hand before him and makes a shocking observation, saying that he fights to protect, not to destroy. He looks at him in confusion. He surprises him with a light flick on his forehead, which sends him flying back and screaming in surprise. He shouts in pain, and he orders him to get up. He smiles and explains that seeing him reminds him of a boy he once knew who was blinded by revenge and lost in the darkness, referring to himself. He reveals that when he left his clan and joined the Muryun martial school, which shocks him, he had to reformulate his martial arts so as not to rely on his family's techniques. He explains that he demolished his foundations while others were building theirs, and he offers to help him build his own. He asks in disbelief if he is offering to teach him. He thinks to himself that having a disciple of one of the 10 Celestials, referring to him, join him is good for his sect. Then he announces his plan to him. In the next 15 days, he will tear apart every technique he knows and he must completely forget himself. He warns him that this process will bring immense pain and asks if he will follow him despite that. He asks him if he will become stronger if he does. He smiles and reassures him, saying, "Don't worry, this is my job." The scene shifts to the Murim Alliance headquarters, where 2 officials are discussing the exceptional current generation of disciples from the Mugyong martial school. One confirms that their results are outstanding, and that team leaders are already competing to recruit them. The first official reveals that the leader of the unorthodox faction alliance has proposed a bet regarding the upcoming competition. This news surprises the other official, Sword Saint Uiji Hak, one of the 10 celestial peaks of the orthodox Murim. The official explains that the leader of the unorthodox faction is betting on the Muryun martial school, the school of one's trainees, to win. If he loses, he will halt all expansion and aggression for 1 year. Ueji Hawk thinks that this bet on the weaker side is a proposal they cannot refuse, as it will give them time to reorganize. He decides to raise the stakes, declaring that they cannot afford to lose this year. They announce their new instructor for the upcoming camp and the best talent from the Wudang Sect, a graduate of Mugyong School and the next strongest Wudang sword. This instructor is known by the title Azure Flow. The new instructor thinks of Baekri Wan's name and the Muryeon Martial School, noting that a long time has passed. Back at his sect, Sowa collapses from exhaustion, complaining that the daily 2-on-5 spars are very harsh training for them. He suddenly appears and asks if they are already tired, then announces he will give them a reward. He explains that after their training is over, they will visit the Muram Alliance to watch the grand tournament. He tells them about a nearby blacksmith who forged his sword and presents them with a challenge. If they win more than 8 out of 15 spars, he will take them to have a custom weapon made for each of them. This excites both Sowa and Wang Pal. Sowa asks what a custom weapon means. He explains it's a weapon made specifically for her. She cheers excitedly and declares she will definitely achieve it. On the next training day, Ryan expresses her amazement, asking her how she managed to find a counter to a move she taught her just yesterday. Sohwa replies that her move from 2 days ago was harder. Won Jin notes that she is particularly energetic today. Seon Munchuk replies that they, the trainees, have also found their own motivation. Seon Munchuk quietly asks Wang Pal if the sect leader is the type to only treat kindly the people he likes. Wang Pal looks embarrassed, as Wan appears in the background attacking Wu Gang, and replies nervously. The scene begins on a moonlit night, showing Baekri Wan with trainee Seon Wu Gang tied to a large rock. He scolds him, calling him a fool, and asks if his orders to do nothing were that difficult. He protests, wondering if Wan expects him to sit idly and waste time. He calls this behavior ridiculous. He places a restraining rope on him, causing him to scream in pain. He explains that this rope was used to transport dangerous martial artists from the unorthodox faction without paralyzing them. He warns him that if he tries to move or use unorthodox techniques, the rope will tighten and crush his body. But he tells him there is a way to break free. He must use only his internal energy to escape, without moving his body. Meanwhile, Wang Pal rushes towards him, asking if it's true that he's giving Wugong special treatment. He denies it nervously and orders them not to concern themselves with such matters. He orders them to continue the spar, and the other 4 trainees rush forward enthusiastically, declaring they will show how much they've improved. He places his hand on his restrained head and tells him to watch his peers closely and to think hard about why he ordered him to do nothing. The spar continues between his 2 disciples and the 4 trainees. Seon Munchuk notices, during the fight, that whenever he retreats to increase the distance, Sowa immediately closes the gap, preventing him from using the effective range of his spear. He decides that if distance is the problem, he will use his body. Wu Gang watches him in shock, wondering how Chuck, who used to rely solely on spear techniques, is now using physical combat skills. As he watches, he thinks that Chuck's move might be a mistake, but he corrects himself, saying, "No." He smiles, thinking that their progress is remarkable, and that they have improved a lot in a short time. He continues talking to him, asking if watching them makes him want to jump in and fight, and if he fears falling behind. Meanwhile, the system announces that trainee Seon Munchuk has entered a state of body and spear unity. Chuck thinks that if he can move as one with the spear, and use his body as the spear itself, then Seon Wugang suddenly shouts, begging Wan to free him from the rope, crying that he can't stay here idle. He orders him to not move. He explains to him that if he draws his sword now, he will never be able to reach that state that Chuck has reached. He explains that Chuck has been building his own martial path since he was on the battlefield, while he only imitates his master's sword art, Great Catastrophe Sword. He angrily asks what he expects of him. He tells him that his body has been trained in fixed habits that cannot be easily discarded, and asks why he has tied him up like this. He explains that if he cannot fix his body's habits with movement, then what he must fix is the habit of his internal energy. He confirms this, explaining that his peers are now training by finding entirely new ways to escape their old comfort zones, but he needs to go further and shatter his internal energy itself. He tells him that a human has 365 energy pathways, but an ordinary martial artist uses no more than 70. He must find answers among the remaining unused pathways. He begins to try to open a new pathway and push his energy through it, resisting the blockage. The system announces that his energy has become turbulent and has begun to flow backward. He shouts, warning him not to rush, because the corrupted energy, blood sword energy, could consume him from within and destroy his energy core. Seon Munchuk watches him in shock, wondering, what kind of training is this? Wugang spits blood, which alarms his comrades. He shouts at them, ordering them to not come near, insisting that this is something he must overcome on his own. He fights the pain, refusing to give up or return to that horrifying past. He focuses, trying to empty the old pathways and purify the corrupted energy, pushing it out. He screams in pain, and the system announces that the trainee has begun the lesser cosmic orbit. He continues to struggle while tied up, coughing violently. Baekri Won approaches him and asks if he's okay. The scene shows his energy exploding. The exhausted man collapses on him, who tells him that in the end, he has emptied the arts of the Blood Sword Sect. He congratulates him with a smile on becoming a blank slate. He asks him, still weak, if he will train him too, insisting he can't fall behind. He agrees, telling him to fill that blank slate with a sword path of his own. The scene shows the trainees running towards him to check on him. Meanwhile, in a nearby forest, Nam Gung-woo and Chong-ha, Won's old comrades from the Blue Sky Unit, examine a mutilated body. Nam Gung-woo comments that the victim was drained and became dry. Chong-ha tells him to be quiet. He analyzes the body, noting the marks on the neck and the fact that he was hung upside down to bleed, confirming that this is the person they were tracking. She wonders sadly if they have lost him again. He notes that there are no common traits among the victims, and that any human seems sufficient for the culprit. He rules out that this is the work of unorthodox sects or the demonic sect because it's too chaotic, and suggests the culprit is a demon. He adds that he is not very strong, as there are few victims, but he is intelligent because he leaves no trace but the bodies. He suggests falling back and requesting support. She refuses, saying they can't let more victims appear while they wait. She asserts that the captain, Mo Young-hyun, who succeeded Won, would have said the same thing, and declares they will continue the pursuit. He agrees with a smile, saying that orders are orders. As they prepare to leave, he jokingly suggests buying insurance because people usually die on such missions. He writes a message on a tree, stating that if he is gone for more than a month, please contact the leader of the Heavenly Bliss sect, Baekri Won. At that moment, Baekri Won, at his sect's headquarters, suddenly has a bad feeling.